Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Looking to talk some Texas defense today. Jumping into two big questions I have and want to have an open and honest discussion with fellow Texas fans just on some things we're seeing over halfway through spring practice. Really excited for April 23rd under the lights to go and see the guys and support the guys over at DKR. Want to give a quick thank you to BUSR. BUSR, the official sponsor, official sportsbook, official betting partner of Fanatic Perspective. We have the Masters going on right now. A lot of live betting. Buy hole, buy round, participate. Got some Masters promos on there. Also, promos for Major League Baseball. Yesterday was opening day, so a lot going on there as well. Most reliable betting partner. Hit up busr.com/fanatic. Promo code Sports100FP. They also have some promo code for some casino chips on there as well to take advantage. So shout out to the sponsor. Also, while you guys are watching, and if you love Texas content, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all platforms. We're trying to come up on IG a little bit. We're doing some TikToks again. So really all platforms. Follow us on all platforms. Fanatic Perspective. Hit that subscribe button. Help us grow this channel. The more we continue to grow, the more resources I can personally allocate to this and continue to provide you guys the content you're looking for. Now, like I said, I want to have an open and honest discussion here with us as fans. We know what this defense was in 2021. We're going to get a little bit more granular into the issues and what we need to improve upon. But in terms of expectations or outlook, what's reasonable for this group? What are your expectations? I want to hear from you in the comments right now. What are your expectations for this defense? Because I'm going to get into 2021 and I know sometimes our expectations can be unrealistic. So I want to make sure that, from a consistency standpoint, which I'm glad year over year, regardless of how bad the numbers look, and the numbers are bad, but we're building towards something and we're not just, flipping over cards and doing what we used to do. There is some stability. There is a method. There is a long-term plan as to bringing this program to where it needs to be. With that being said, in terms of 2022, we do need to see improvement. And in my opinion, on the defensive side of the ball, it needs to be significant. 5-7 football team last year. You had an offense, and we're not really talking offense in this video, but just for context, this offense did average over 35 points per game. Now, how you want to get into that with quarterback play, with the consistency on the offensive line, the injuries at receiver, you really think about all of that, still at 35 points per game. A lot of the metrics offensively, they're in that, there's 130 teams in college football. So they're in that 18 to 15, top 15, top 20, a lot of other offensive metrics, quite frankly. So, again, consistency, things to improve on that side of the ball. But when we get into the defense, I want to show this so that we have clarity here on how we are going to set our expectations. So I know a lot of people are going to look at this. And again, these aren't, super advanced analytics or anything like that. These are just certain things that I kind of start with in terms of paying attention to. Some of these metrics here hold more value than others, in my opinion. Now, yards per game, we can, there's ways those numbers can be manipulated. I don't have snap counts on here, things of that sort. But out of 130 teams, just your base metrics, look where Texas falls from 2021. So we can talk about, us getting off to shaky starts and later in the season offensively, or some of the issues we had, sustaining drives or things of that sort. But these defensive metrics are beyond abysmal, right? You're in the bottom quadrant, you're triple digits in some of these areas. So I put this together just to show certain things that I would like to see or start with, because we're looking at this, and Gary Patterson also being in the room matters too here, right? So, you got GP in there, but when we're looking at these metrics, let's dive a little deeper here, right? Personally, for me as a fan, I need to see a better rush defense. Rushing defense across the board. You hear it all on a lot of the paid sites right now that they have an emphasis on the edges in particular of how can they supplement those areas better to hold up against some of the outside runs, outside zone, things of that sort. I totally think that that point needs to continue to be pressed. That is something we cannot get tired of hearing because it was a significant issue and an issue that needs to be proved upon very, very quickly. Now, there are options and people coming in to the program that we believe can help us, but we have to consider with what where we're coming from, what is a good tangible level of improvement. For example, if we're talking about in regards to the rushing yards, can we get up into the top 65, right? In terms of, because I'm cutting 130 in half. So are we above average stopping the run? Because I don't want to be one of the worst teams in giving up over like that. That to me is inexcusable in terms of watching football as a fan. I can't do that again. I can't see Jalen Warren getting off and Kennedy Brooks getting off and Abram Smith getting off, and like you name the back, Brees Hall, you name the back, Deuce Vaughn. I mean, I can't have that again defensively. And if you look at the excellent defenses in college football, it starts with them turning the faucet off in the run game. We're making teams one dimensional. We're not allowing you to just run, get whatever you want on first and second down. If you look at rush yards per attempt, 5.2 yards per carry is unacceptable. We're giving up more yards per attempt than most of the top 10 defenses gave up per play outright, including the pass. So, like Georgia, I believe yards per play outright, because we're 5.9 yards per play. Yards per play, I think Georgia was at 4 or something like that, like 4.1 or was the metric, right? So I can't be giving up that's 2nd and 5, right? Right off the bat. There's certain things that you have to take away, and we've seen Texas defenses take away, not even when we were good, but just recently in this decade, or the past 10 years, the past 5 years, pick your defensive coordinator, where we were at least able to take those things away and not not have these bleeds, especially later in the game where people are really, really gashing us. Now, this isn't also, I want to make this clear. This isn't just to say our defense is total trash and there's nothing they did good last year and they're fully to blame for us going 5-7. I'm well aware that they had a shutout last year, albeit against bad team. They had a shutout last year. They held Louisiana to 18 points, and Louisiana didn't lose again. I thought played, I actually give them more credit upon revisiting it. I thought they played a pretty solid first half against Arkansas, all things considered, when we definitely didn't show up offensively. So they have moments in there where they held up their end of the bargain. When early in the season, when we were jumping all over people and getting out to quick starts offensively, one of the reasons why we were able to have big leads is we were playing pretty good defense in the first half of those games. First quarter of OU, first half of Oklahoma State. I mean, our defensive output was good in certain moments, but you grade defenses over the totality of games and you grade them over the totality of seasons. And that's why the metrics, when you go and look at a lot of these categories, you'll see that they fall in line with the overall outcome of win-loss records for these teams. So it's not a surprise that with all these metrics, from a defensive standpoint, you're a 5-7 football team, even with the offensive output. But the offense wasn't good enough and consistent enough to carry this defense out of holes or just completely pick up the bag when the defense was out of gas, right? So we've got to pay attention. Context is key. Is where I'm going with that, right? Context is key. Now, some of you may be looking at the passing yards allowed, hey, 224 per game is not bad, blah, blah, blah. Context is key. Who's the best quarterback we played last season? I would argue that he now plays for USC with his previous coach. I would say that's the best quarterback we saw last season. The other quarterbacks we saw were, average to below average, but we didn't force them to actually really beat us. If you really think about it, a lot of these games, they were able to lean on their run game and get 200 plus yards, get 250 plus yards. So we never really put that amount of pressure. So while 224 yards per game, because again, conferences and styles of play and snaps and all that, again, that's why these are raw numbers, not real advanced stats or anything like that. But that's why passer rating is what it is, though, right? Because people, when they played against us, are able to pass and on their terms and able to dictate the flow of the game. Sacks, no pressure, third down percentage, all these things factor into your win-loss outcome. So where can we improve? How can we improve? What the second question I had, and before we start really answering things, is who are the sure things on defense, right? And where who can we point to as, all right, I know I'm going to get XYZ production out of this person, or we have an all Big 12 level player here, things of that sort. Who can we point to right now? And I asked this question in a lot of the Twitter spaces that I've participated in. There's been some great Texas Longhorn Twitter spaces out there, but I've asked this question a lot. And one of the biggest, answers I've gotten from people is O'Shawn Mathis. And he's not committed to Texas yet. He is not on the roster yet. Now, we all are hoping and praying that this guy here can come through for us. But a lot of you guys are saying, hey, this is probably, assuming he's on the roster, it's our most established guy, which is, exciting at the potential he could come. And I hope he comes. But it's also really, really sad in terms of what rate or level of improvement we can actually have. So with that being said, because his commitment is outstanding, there's a lot of guys coming back or young guys coming in where we got to share those things out. We started with the edge, and we've talked a lot about a young guy like a Justice Finkley. These are guys who, whether they're starters or key rotational pieces, depending on snap counts, whether it's Ovia Gofu, whether it's Prince Dorba trying to factor more into this, DJ Harris, a lot of these guys that are going to be competing, can they hold up physically at the line of scrimmage, and can they hold their assignments to where we're not getting gashed at the end of these games and they're giving us better snaps than what we saw before? That's why a lot of people are paying so much attention to O'Shawn Mathis, because if we're asking Ovia Gofu or some of the guys that struggled last year to play 70, 80% of the defensive snaps, how much can we really honestly expect to improve? So now I need Justice Finkley and some of these guys to give me, however you want to divvy up the snap counts, right? Whether it's 30 or 40% of the snaps, however you want to look at it, or if it's third down situation or situational snaps, we need them to come in and really be day one studs. And I believe in a lot of these guys, but we got to see it play out. Then you have the other guys who are really, really talented, but we need more, right? The Alfred Collins of the world. And you see Keandre Coburn in there too, who's one of the older guys, and we'll get to that group in a second. But the Alfred Collins of the world, I was encouraged to hear Moro Ojomo and how fired he was about being tired of losing. Well, that energy has to translate to cut this off, so you're not letting everybody and their mom and their brother and their sister come into the room and run all over the place. So that personal pride has to translate into these numbers, and those numbers have to translate into that win-loss column. Alfred Collins, Moro Jomo. Now, we are hearing good signs out of the practice reports, so I want to address the practice reports. Jalen Ford sounds like he's coming on. I told you guys one of the five most important people in terms of impact because he's playing that Mike position. That was a position of a lot of inconsistency last year. So Jalen Ford stepping up, David Benda stepping up. What are we going to get out of number 0? And look, I'm rocking his shirt right now. Arm Bandit. I'm with it. I love DeMarvion. He's got to improve as a linebacker, as a defender at that level for what he's being asked to do in this defense. He did take a step back from what Chris Ash and Coleman Hustler asked him to do in 2020. Can we have that rebound year in 2022? For his sake, for NFL purposes, we know what his talent level is. We know he can make the wow play. He can make those splash plays. He can tackle guys and get guys on the ground that other people can't. He can get to some certain balls that other people can't. But can he be consistent every single down? Can he be where I asked him to be and have the right pursuit angle on a 3rd and 3 and getting somebody down, or communicating to a teammate to make the right play? These are things we have to see improve the defense to improve those numbers. Communication, I mentioned. Joe Cook actually touched on this in one of the practice reports from Inside Texas about communication. And that's probably the biggest thing I've been driving on a lot of the Twitter spaces for those who have been listening to me talk. That's been lacking in our secondary at Texas. Y'all can throw out whatever 5 y'all want. Right now, I've heard it's Watts, Deshaun Jameson at the corners, Jahdae Barron at nickel, and then Keaton Crawford and Anthony Cook playing the safeties. Whatever 5 it is, that 5 has to be good at communication. I know, running and explosiveness and tackling and all these things, yeah, they factor in. It's a big deal. But it starts and ends with me on, are we talking? Are we on the same page? Are we reading from the same sheet of music? And I was encouraged by what Sark said, and it was mentioned in Joe Cook's article about Keaton and Anthony playing different positions, having them play nickel before, having them play corner before. They know what the others are looking at. And in their defense, it is their job as the safeties to make sure that the nickel and the corners understand what their assignments are and they have the right calls. And so communication is everything. I don't care how fast or how big you are. If you don't know what's happening on the field and you're not processing things quick enough, you are going to look bad. You're going to look slow. You're going to look out of position. And you're going to have the frustrations we've been having, for however many years now. So these are the things we're looking to see improve. In the golden days, one of their coaches right now is Blake Gideon, who's the safeties coach. And I loved watching Blake Gideon play because he was like an additional coach on the field. His skills of communication were excellent. Can he translate that and incorporate that as a coach into guys like Anthony Cook or JD Coffey or Larry Gunn Turner, like whoever's out there, Keaton Crawford, whatever person you guys want to throw out there, are those things being communicated? That's why a lot of people feel as though, one Jaron Bug Thompson can be a contributor at safety because of him taking on more of a leadership role now and having shown some history of some high IQ football. Whatever the group is, they have got to be on the same page. Even if there's a better athlete on the bench, but that person doesn't communicate as well or doesn't jive with the other people, I need that group. Those 5 DBs or whether it's 6 DBs, however they want, whatever the alignments will play, because it'll vary based on situation. But the core base groups got to be reading from the same sheet of music. I cannot emphasize communication enough. I want to give a shout out to the Longhorn Blitz podcast, Rob B and Jeff Howe, because Rob B actually touched on this as well. In the past, Dwayne Akina, all those guys got cross-trained before. We know, Mike Huff, who's on the staff as well and helping out with the kids, started out as a corner, ended up getting drafted as a safety. Aaron Ross played all over the place. Rob B played all over the place. Terrell Brown, all the way up through guys like Aaron Williams. I remember when Earl Thomas was playing a lot of nickel and slot corner early in his Texas career. But guys that were cross-trained, and honestly, That flows into what Gary Patterson has always done really well at TCU, and why I'm glad we're kind of going away from extreme defined roles of free safety, strong safety, or field safety, boundary safety. You'll have those things still in play in terms of who can play in more space and who can play more in a box. I'm not disregarding that. But when you have a whole bunch of people that have good all around skills, can everybody play man coverage? Can everybody take the proper pursuit angles? Can everybody communicate on coverages and calls and understand what the hand is doing over here and what somebody else is doing over here? Those will make us better. Those aspects there. Okay. You look at a lot of the film, sometimes I felt like with our guys, there's very little communication going on. You're just going out there and you're just trying to execute a call. And there's no problem solving happening real time or snap to snap. That's what can make us better. Now, going to the original question, and we can wrap here. What is realistic for you? If you get on here and say we need to have a top 20 defense, to me, that's not realistic. And that's not a fair ask coming from where they're coming from. Again, they were, however you want to look at it, points allowed, whether you care more about yards, whatever, conversion rates. I'm looking at, can across the board, can we shave these things down? Can we get up to 2.5 sacks per game? I know that doesn't sound like a crazy number, but that's adding on another 12 to 15 sacks overall to your total. Does that mean that I now have a defined person that's really getting pressure consistently without me having to call blitzes all the time? Does that mean that I'm doing a better job against the run and I'm making people pass more? I'm making Gary Bohannon beat me. I'm making Spencer Sanders beat me. What do these things mean? So we have to define what our expectation is, not just throwing out and saying, we need to be a top 10 defense or we need to be a top. I expect the offense to be more consistent. I expect now, but I also think the offense is going to struggle early in the season. I think they're really, really going to be humming come conference play. That's because of the schedule. That's because of the schedule. They're going to play Alabama. They're going to play UTSA. They've got some stuff right off the bat with a new, whether it's Hudson Card or Quinn Ewers or whoever's back there at quarterback, and a lot of new pieces. So there's going to be a little bit of growing pains on offense. I don't expect it to be severe or anything like that. But until they get to the point where we feel like our offense is getting over 40 points PPG every single week, and we're dicing up, whether it's a good defense, bad whoever, we're dicing people up. This defense is going to have to help, and we're going to have to see an uptick. Now, the good thing with PK at Washington, he was down bad too early on, and took him a while to find his pieces, recruit, all these things, and they were able to get to a point where they were one of the best defenses consistently year in, year out. We know about the stats of him holding people below 35 points in that long streak, and ultimately the guys that got sent to the NFL. So, again, going back through this, can people like Justice Finkley help us right off the bat, more of that prototype, that body that they're looking for? Can we get an uptick from people like Alfred Collins and people like Deshaun Jameson, my last chance guys, the guys that we don't have time to wait for you anymore. I know what you can do as a return man. What can you give me in coverage? And if you can't give it to me, Terrence Brooks was good. All these, I'm not waiting anymore. So we've got to be reasonable in our expectation, but I do think that if they can get to a point where, I've talked about this with Kieran, are we a top 50 defense? Does it need to be top 70 in terms of how does that equate to win-loss? Does that mean now we're 8-4? Does that mean now we're 9-3? Does that mean now we're in the Big 12 championship game? How does that coincide with these metrics? It's not going to be even, but it has to start here. If we're hovering around the 90s and the hundreds and the 110s in certain categories, we're going to lose a lot of football games again. And that's not good. So we've got to focus and key in on some of these things here. But like I said, let me know in the comments just your overall thoughts. I know this is more of a kind of an open analytical conversation, but I want to have this conversation with you guys because I don't know the answer. I'm asking what is realistic, or Are y'all saying, hey, we about to have a night and day type jump? I don't think that's realistic, but y'all let me know, what do you need to see? Is it, hey, we need to be a top 30 run defense, and I'll give up some more pass. Me personally, I'll let these Big 12 quarterbacks and some of these people in the conference, some of these first year starters try to beat me in the air. But I cannot give up what I gave up on the ground and let you be efficient in the pass game on the other side. That's a big no-no for me. And we don't get pressure. So we've got to start taking things away. And I think we'll see an improvement in the win-loss column for this football team. So some things I'm paying attention to. Y'all, again, subscribe, hit me up. BUSR, thank you for sponsoring the videos, for sponsoring the channel. Official sportsbook betting partner of Fanatic Perspective. Hit up busr.com/fanatic. Matches going on, MLB. So much to take advantage of. You're looking for a reliable sportsbook, 24/7 customer service, best in the biz. Check them out, busr.com/fanatic. Guys, remember, horns always up.